Okay, part two. We're going to pick up on organizations. Right now I'm on slide 26. Organizations, that's the company, the business you're working for. You could be a sole proprietor, you're going to still have an organization. Whether you got 1 employee or 20,000 employees. We're talking about the context of our organization. So organizations, they're the main user of information systems. The goal of an information system for an organization is to be more productive and more profitable. Like I always say, anytime business is only going to do something if it's going to bring them more money, gain a competitive advantage, reach more customers, improve service to their customers. All types of organizations are going to use some form and fashion of information systems. Common types of information systems used by organizations. The most common one is going to be the transaction processing system. Any organization that is selling a product, has some type of sales, there's going to be a system that's going to record the transaction between them and their customer. And that's typically referred to as a TPS, transaction processing system. Other more common ones are management information systems. Management information systems are good because they're mainly internal. They're to help with the day-to-day operations of the business. Supply chain systems, how many products do we need to order? We need to order more parts from our suppliers. Some of the newer ones, hot topic ones, are decision support systems, data mining and visualization. So organizing the information systems function on slide 29 talks about the early history where the poor service and worse attitudes. Early systems were cumbersome to use, over budget and late. The rise and fall of end-user development, that's where people tried to build their own applications and just couldn't get things done. And then now we have the modern information systems organization, where the attitudes have changed. People realize that the value that information technology and information systems can bring, and the service mentality has emerged. So the spread of technology in organizations. IT personnel, they tend to spend most of their time out in the business unit. When we say business unit, think of it as the people actually generating the profit. When you have an organization, you're going to have people that generate profit, and then you're going to have people that are considered overhead, where they're keeping the business going. They enable the people to go out in the business units and generate revenue. So most of your information system personnel tend to spend a lot of time in their business unit. Information systems personnel often have dual reporting relationships, where they report to both central information systems group and the business function they serve. So that means if you have an accounting department, the information system, they'll work with the accounting department as well, but they have to go back to that central IT staff, information system staff, and follow what they do as well. So that's kind of the best of both worlds. When you have somebody dedicated to a certain department, but at the same time, they're keeping everything in sync with the rest of the company, especially a larger company like my company, SAIC. We have over $11 billion in revenue a year, 45,000 plus employees. So we have many different business units. We have a business unit tied for the different parts of the military. The Army, we have our own business unit. The Navy, we have our own business unit. State and local government has its own business unit. So we have all these IT professionals out there that are working with the customers, but at the same time, there's some dual reporting method to where they come back to the corporate structure, which is where I'm located at, and kind of tie into what we're doing for the business as a whole. Okay, so slide 33 is very important. It talks about the dual nature of information systems. The first bullet there, IS can help or hurt you. That's an extremely true statement. And many of the IT projects and information systems that have been around, they either start off negative, they are released with a negative impact. Very rarely will an information system get everything right, and usually it's a maturing process. Once the system does go live, in the beginning everybody hates it, and over time it kind of evolves and improves and becomes loved. Some examples here: the Toyota Prius, the failure where the braking system, where on like a rough road the Prius would no longer allow you to brake, and we had several accidents, we actually had deaths reported. Toyota had a huge failure with that. So the success of FedEx, the information hub of their business, where the managing information is the business. The tracking system, the package tracking system, is a huge success. Competitive advantage. Information systems are going to bring a huge competitive advantage to a company. Both FedEx and Toyota were developing strategic information systems. So anybody, like we talked about the organization a few slides back, every organization has some form and fashion of information systems. The key thing is to try to have a strategic information system. One of the most famous information systems around is dealing with Walmart and their inventory replenishing system. It's state-of-the-art, and it's one of the main reasons why Walmart is able to offer such a competitive price to their customers. So an information system, when it is done right, it will allow you to gain a competitive advantage. So slide 35, this deals not only with the chapter, but also deals with your assignment this week. Talks about the Nicholas Carr article, IT Doesn't Matter, where he states IT is no longer a source of advantage on the firm level. Companies should focus IT on cost reduction and risk mitigation. So, like we said, your job this week is to really read that article. I've sent a link out to it. Read the full article. Get his take on it. I mean, he's a very well-respected person. Hear his take on it. There's many experts that agree and disagree with him. So your job is to make up your own mind and argue either side of it. All right, so the last part of Chapter 1 dives into computer ethics. Slide 37 lists some of the key ethical concerns: information privacy, information accuracy, information property, and information accessibility. These are all major concerns. Anytime you're dealing with an information system, anything with IT, you're dealing with digital data. My job, I manage the operations for an integrated digital environment, so I know all about digital data, securing it. Just this past week, I've had 2 incidents where on our contract system where they've actually loaded classified information into our system, which isn't certified for classified information. So whenever that happens and it's identified, there's a huge cleansing process that has to go on. It's a major headache for me. It's a major headache for the customer. It's a major headache for the people in the business unit that actually uploaded that data. So data, it's very important to secure in information systems and in IT. It brings up a whole new set of ethics. Everybody's familiar with ethics as far as right and wrong. Try to do the right thing as much as possible. But when we're dealing with IT and information systems and digital data, it's just a whole other scale. So the first thing we're talking about, information privacy. What information should you have to reveal? Information you might want to keep private. There's laws now are being generated and being written around a lot of this stuff. Definitely you have a right as an organization, as an IT person. It's kind of like being a police officer. You get sworn in, you take an oath. It's not as formal when you work in IT, but you should still feel some of that responsibility that you have the right, you have the responsibility to keep people's social security numbers private, their medical history private. HIPAA is out there now, the family history, their credit card information. We have to protect against an identity theft. So there's so many huge ethical concerns. We won't go into how to maintain your privacy online. So information accuracy on slide 41. Ensuring the authenticity and fidelity of information. So when you have these information systems, when you're in the IT world and you're building these advanced applications to manage your HR system, to manage your accounting system, to manage your database systems, your systems, no matter how great they are, they'll fail if the data inside them is not accurate. One of the advantages of building these complex applications, these enterprise-wide applications, as we'll get into in this course, is that they revolve around a central database, a central data store. So whenever you're dealing with IT, most chances are you're going to have several hundreds of applications that you're going to have to support. And you'll know what it means to have to support more than one data source. There is a huge information accuracy issue. A value may be one value in one system, especially let's take this example. You have one department that's storing a person's address information, and you have another department that's storing customer address information. So you have two departments storing the same amount of data. I'm your customer, and the next time I call in for technical support, I update my address. 3 months later, I call in to order new parts. The parts department that had their own database with their own address information for me still had the old address. Shipped the parts to the new product parts to my old address. So that's what we mean, that accuracy. That isn't really a huge ethical concern, but it is a cost for the businesses. But you can see where the ethical and the information accuracy comes into play, not only from an ethical standpoint, but from a business standpoint as well. When you don't keep the information accurate as possible, when you have it stored all around the place in many different systems, you open yourself up to inaccuracies all over the place, and both ethical and business problems occur. Information property, slide 42. Selling information about people has become a big business. I mean, it's huge. Your email address has probably been sold several times over. The big concern now about who owns information about individuals, how can information be sold and exchanged. One of the things, I don't want to get too big into ethics. This is more, advanced IT and computer applications, but one of the funny things is about information property. The U.S. compared to, let's say, Europe, Europe has so much stronger laws that actually protect their citizens' information. The U.S. has taken a standpoint of it's our responsibility as citizens and users of a computer system to opt out. Whereas the Europeans have taken the stance of you have to opt in. Before you can ever store my information, I have to opt into your system. So two different schools of thought. Okay, so slide 43 talks about the data privacy statements. Company maintaining the database with customer information legally owns it. Is free to sell it. So in the U.S., like I said, you've been given data from a customer and you can freely sell it. Social networking has come about, it's gotten huge as of late. Complicates the matter even more. So just more ways information property and data privacy statements come into play. Information accessibility. Who has the right to monitor information? Example, email monitoring at work. Can the organization monitor it? To a certain extent, they can. So 45 talks about the need for a code of ethical conduct. That's a really strong need. Every organization needs to make sure they have that in place. The digital divide talks about slide 47. Kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about in the opening, right, with globalization. That digital divide, the gap between people who are computer literate and have computer access and internet access and those who do not. As globalization gets bigger and bigger, that divide gets smaller and smaller. So, like I said, globalization, IT has enabled business around the world to operate worldwide, and that digital divide is getting smaller and smaller a lot in terms of that. So they kind of work hand in hand. So with that, that's kind of the highlights of Chapter 1. I see everybody has checked into class, so I'm quite happy about that. You all have your discussion questions, so please answer those promptly, and then we can all start feeding back on those and have a good class. I sent the quiz out just a little while ago, so you have until Sunday to do that. You have until Sunday to turn your assignment in. Like I said in the opening, we all know what's expected of us. We have due dates. Let's go ahead and make sure we make those dates, and I look forward to looking back at what you guys write and responses. So enjoy. Until next week. See you then. Bye-bye.